Hello everybody, my name is Luke Mar and this is HauteLeMode, and today on HauteLeMode we are coming to you with another reaction video to those inside of the archive videos from Vogue. Now listen, I really like doing these. The one about Michelle Elie and Comme des Garçons was really good. It was really cool, really fun. This episode is actually about the fashion writer, editor, archivist, curator, all of the above, Alexander Fury. Honestly, like if we look at a few of the books on here, the Vivienne Westwood one, he wrote catwalk books. They're big, pretty positive. He did the Dior one as well. They're great books. Alexander Fury is a great writer, great interviewer. And I do know prior to this video that he has a pretty immense collection of not only clothing, but fashion sort of resource materials. I'm happy that we get to react to this whole collection. It's a lot of Dior, a lot of John Galliano era Dior, but I'm pretty positive that Alexander Fury has like a very wide ranging grouping of styles. And now if you're wondering like, Luke, what are you wearing? In the spirit of vintage and archive and all that sort of stuff, I've just pulled out a few little old Dior experiences. I'm currently wearing a little Dior Homme by Eddie Slimane, sort of t-shirty shirt. If it looks a little bit vintage, well it is. It's very old, so that's why she looks a little bit beat up, but that's okay. It means she was well used. But I'm also working with Fashion File, the amazing luxury secondhand goods sellers, who actually has lent these two different Dior bags of John Galliano provenance. Here we have a double saddle bag, beautiful green ostrich. It's stunning, it's gorgeous, it feels amazing. The CD, it's a really beautiful bag. I'm really happy that they were like, yeah, we have this. Like if you wanna, you know, post up. I was really happy when they were like, yeah, we like have this in the office if you wanna like show it to the HauteLeModies. Be our guest. We also have this beautiful Diorella bag. It has this sort of iconic number 2. You know, John Galliano loved the little number situation, early 2000s vibes. It has a cute little bow with the zipper. It's fun. It's in a little sort of denim-y fabric. It's great. I love it. Now, if you guys want to shop either of these two bags, click on the links in the description box below. I get a little commission on the side, but I want to start sort of having more of these bags and any kind of items that represent whatever we're talking about, depending on the video going forward, and they will be shoppable with the link in the description box below, so don't worry. Without further ado, I say let's get into this actual reaction so we can see some of these sort of styles in a more archival context.
I was thinking of
saddle bags already. There was that nice little leather one. There's this Dior oblique monogram one. Now those are like just saddle bags. This is a double saddle bag, in case you needed to know. I didn't know that at first, that they're different, but the saddle bag actually has like that shape that sort of slopes. It's asymmetrical, whereas the double saddle bag, it slopes to a degree, but it still has a sort of secondary element underneath to, you know, give it real, true, symmetrical pocketbook vibes.
that kind of Marie Kondo thing of, you know, does it spark joy? And everything sparks joy.
Honestly, like, fair point. Also, if I had like Galliano new paper print skirts and a shit ton of Dior oblique monogram styles, like I'd be very happy. If you want to know more about the Dior oblique monogram, you can check out our video on Mark Bowen, who was the creative director that brought about the Dior monogram. I think it's very interesting when we look at somebody like Mark Bowen and then Galliano. You can sort of see a reinvention, and that the designers who are at big houses like a Dior, like a Chanel, like Givenchy, Balenciaga, they sort of tend to go into other creative directors' moments and styles and inventions and explorations, as well as the original founding designer. Sometimes it works really well. I think Galliano is a great example of making the Dior oblique monogram very much so his own. Sometimes it doesn't work very well. It's a timing thing for everybody. You have to be able to have enough time in between when it was first done and sort of like a almost like dislike and or sort of distance from it, and then you bring it back, you make it the cat's pajamas. Maria Grazia at Dior did a very good job of waiting long enough, and then she brought the saddlebag back. And honestly, like, it came back in full swing and it had its real true blue moment. Kim Jones did the same thing. Like, it's possible. So just so you know, that monogram has been around since what? Late 60s, early 70s, the latest.
Which is kind of a disaster in terms of storage solutions and in terms of my financial state. I think my collection is around 300 pieces.
That's so much stuff. I'll say, like, listen, I have a few bits and bobs here and there. It is actually like a monster to store some of that stuff. Like, my parents were like, you can't keep buying things. You cannot keep leaving them at our house. It's really bad. And I was like, but it's a Balenciaga couture suit from the 60s. And they're like, shut up. I completely understand that the clothes and those things really, really do take up a lot of space, a lot of money, and a lot of time to care for all of them.
Hello Vogue, I'm Alexander Fury and I'm devoted to collecting the work of John Galliano.
Star.
I first started collecting John Galliano pieces when I was a teenager. I didn't conceive of it as a collection at that point in time. It was just, I was a kid that was completely besotted with the work that he was creating. I can remember the first time I saw a John Galliano dress. It was in a magazine, and it was a magazine that my mother owned. It was a picture of Carla Bruni. She's wearing a long black and white dress with a coat, and she was stood on the rooftop of a building and it was snowing. And this just didn't look like anything else that I'd ever seen before.
Prior to his gross remarks regarding Jewish people, the Holocaust, absolute garbage that he spewed at that time, his work very much so was influential, very much so was revolutionary, very much so was inspirational, whimsical. It becomes hard, I think, with fashion to separate the art and the artist to a degree, but sometimes it can be done depending on who the person is. The thing is, it's a tough thing. I'm not Jewish, I don't have any family members that survived the Holocaust. Like, I'm not going to sit here at all and tell people how they should feel about John Galliano whatsoever. I think people should feel however they want to feel about John Galliano. And if your feeling is not, I hate him, your feeling should also take into account the shit that he said. So it will always be a stain on Galliano's work and himself as a designer. Those comments, that video, the things that were said. I think, though, there are some people, and I would say Alexander Fury is a good example of it, that what he experienced in seeing Galliano prior to any of that sort of stuff as a child, it really left a mark on him. And that's what happens for a lot of people. And so in reality, like, I'm not going to sit here and condemn somebody for loving something that they loved for themselves, not necessarily because of the person or, you know, being dictated by the person, but rather it's something that they really hold true and dear and kind and caring. I think it's a fair thing to at least look at from both sides. The love of somebody. It's like the love of Michael Jackson. People love Michael Jackson. There's a lot of stuff about Michael Jackson that is an experience, but I don't blame the people that love Michael Jackson for all of the work and all of the stuff that happened prior to all of these other things. Is something that really holds tight in people and holds sort of emotional weight. That's where I really stand with this.
I wanted to know more about it, and that was really sort of the gateway for my fascination with fashion. Welcome to my archive room. This is where I keep the majority of my Galliano collection, and I would estimate there's around 200 to 300 pieces.
Oh my god. Holy shit. If Alexander Fury is saying that this is like just Galliano, there has to be like Vivienne Westwood. There has to be more in here. Okay, so I'm going to put on white cotton curator's gloves. Love
which
that.
Seem a bit deranged, out of context, but it's
not
to
at all.
protect everything from acids from my hands, and also
This is
honestly
so smart.
because I have white things and I have a propensity to get dirt on any spot of white in any garment feasible.
I respect that 100%. Listen, that's care. That's understanding science. It's understanding the fact that you hold things that are valuable. It is not crazy to have those gloves, to wear those gloves, to use those gloves whatsoever. I guess maybe to somebody that doesn't understand, maybe to a certain degree, conservation, yeah, sure, maybe, but very important that those gloves are worn. Honestly, like, some tissue paper can ruin clothes. That's how sensitive clothing can be after a certain point.
The difficulty in finding anything in here.
Look at that fisheye lens.
There is no system. There is no logic to the way that I store all of these things. It's very kind of impulsive.
Interesting.
And I often get distracted by finding things that are amazing that I forgot I had.
I love fashion hoarding. It's my favorite thing, I will say.
When you do find the thing you've been searching for,
Oh my god.
it's like
Oh
finding
my
kind of
God.
hidden treasure. A 2000 collection for Christian Dior, Fly Girls, which is a favourite of mine. It's entirely sequined, silk,
Shit.
tie-dye to look like denim.
Those clear
and
sequins.
It's just an extraordinary piece. It's another of those pieces where you can't quite believe it was physically made.
I love these little close-ups. I think they're so hot, they're so cool. And again, I think it really showcases, like, yes, you can see something that's sequins from afar and you're like, oh, okay, it's sequins. But when you really see that somebody like hand sewed those sequins.
But I'm very lucky that it ended up with me. I would say the collection has completely outgrown my home, and what I need to do is be less covetous and less focused on having it within arm's reach. I have this issue with quite clothing specific separation anxiety. The pieces I collect are women's wear, and they're quite extreme women's wear. They're not kind of polite coats with a little bit of a bust dart. You know, they're ball gowns, they're bias cut evening dresses, they're skirt suits in sort of shocking pink. These aren't pieces that I'm buying to wear. It's absolutely an obsession. I don't think obsessions are necessarily bad things. I always think I could be doing much worse things with my time and with my money than this. And I do think it's about caring for things.
I agree. Listen, when we watch those closet tour videos and we see people that they buy a Birkin in every color, to a degree, yeah, is that caring about things and all that jazz? Yes, absolutely. I would say that, like, a Birkin versus a Christian Dior jacket or a John Galliano skirt suit, there's something about clothing that people feel so disposable. I think it's just the way that fashion currently works. It's the system at hand. I think it's the way that brands have built the customer to feel about clothing that it's just get rid of it. And I think that sometimes it's hard to find certain things. I know that when I'm trying to do research, it's very difficult to find clothes that you're sort of seeing designers reference or designer sort of takes. And so to have somebody that really is like truly collecting things to make sure that they're not lost, they're not ruined, they're not separated, they're not destroyed, they're not treated just like disposable whatever, I think is really amazing. Because I think whether or not people realize it, they're a true profound beauty to clothing, not just in the sense of whoever wears it, but the actual creation of a product. And not in like a capitalist like, yeah sense, but more in a sense of it's very labor intensive, it's very difficult, it's very technical, it's very much so creative. There's not many things in the world that are that. And then at the same time, really capture people's fascination and ideas and minds and intellect, and even stupidity and tackiness and all of those things, they're all kind of valid with clothing. There's something about it. I don't know. When you go to the Costume Institute, those exhibits are packed out, and it's so amazing that if you were to go into the Costume Institute, yes, you'll hear Karen and Jill from Wichita, Kansas saying, I would never wear that. It looks like dog shit. That's so ugly. Yes, of course, sure. But Karen and Jill from Wichita, Kansas aren't going to go into the European painting wing and say, oh, Vermeer was such a trashy art. Like, no, clothing incites a feeling of emotion that people really can articulate to a degree because they feel that they can see themselves through it. Not all art is that way. Clothing is that way. And so I bow down to somebody that really dedicates their life to making sure that fashion history stays protected and appreciated.
And that it's weird when you talk about kind of inanimate objects, but you know, clothes are delicate things. They can be destroyed by so many means. You can leave them and they can be eaten by moths, they can get wet, they can get stained, they can be mistreated, they can be torn. They need to be kind of cared for and cherished. These are one of the first Galliano pieces I ever bought myself. They're Dior logo rings from Autumn Winter 2000. Wow. I spent pretty much all of my money on when I was a besotted 16-year-old. A lot of people have kind of asked me about where this passion comes from, why I feel such kind of love for what John Galliano does. And increasingly I've come to the realization that it's the same as teenage boys being besotted with a particular musician or guys who are incredibly passionate about a football team or a soccer team. You know, for me, my sport is fashion and my team is Galliano. I made the right decision in buying them because now they're ferociously difficult to get hold of. So I'm very happy I got these. It is this kind of, you know, teenage obsession, this sort of nose to the glass, wanting to be part of this world. idolizing somebody, falling in love with everything they're creating. I also think kind of for a kid who was different, growing up in the north of England, in the middle of the countryside, where you had to special order Vogue to be able to get it at the kind of local corner shop. It was amazing that there was this kind of dream of this other world. There was this dream of, I don't want to say something better, but certainly something different. When I discovered Galliano's work, it was like, oh, these are people that kind of, they get what I'm about.
It's so emotional and so raw. And I know it's about clothing, but like it's very nice to like hear that somebody really is speaking about the emotional attachment that fashion has on their lives and their upbringing and things like that, and really like how it does and capture people in such a way. So it's so nice to hear that, really truly, not just like because they can afford, a private jet where they go and, put 47 million Birkins and Balmain jackets, but rather it's something that somebody really like, it's a niche and they focus on it and they hone it and they really care about it, and it all stems from a true love.
This is a note from John. He does know that I am an admirer and that I collect his work. He actually knows firsthand because one of, I would say, the earliest pieces I collected was, and certainly one of the most important pieces I have, is a coat from Autumn Winter 1996. It's actually a coat that John wore for a portrait by Paolo Reversi taken that year, and it was in the show, and I bought it on eBay. There was a fierce bidding war between me and one other bidder until about kind of 3 a.m, and I was the person that finally won it. And
oh my god,
I subsequently found out that the other bidder on the item was John.
Stop. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's so cool. I love that. That makes me so happy. The thing is, like with auctions, I've only been to one clothing one. You never know who's bidding on stuff unless they're there, which nowadays, in the age of technology, like nobody really is. I'll never forget walking into the auction, and it was right before COVID happened. And I was with a friend, and essentially we were like, we're here for the auction. They were like, you're here for the auction? And we were like, yeah. And they were like, oh, okay, sure. But in reality, people were bidding online, they were bidding, via telephone, and things were going for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. It's amazing to see that people really care about their archives. A lot of fashion designers do. I probably should do a video on that. There's a little something going on here in the US about some designers that are not getting treated properly when it comes to their archives, and there's a history of that as well. I should work on that. But listen, it's not going to come anytime soon, but it will come. But regardless, it's just cool to hear that John and Alexander were furiously bidding over some Galliano work.
He told me himself, and I don't know if he thought I was going to give him the coat, but I'm not going to give him the coat. So this is the
Respect
coat.
that.
It's really extraordinary.
Oh, wow.
I think he's the greatest fashion designer in the world, and I think these are the greatest clothes in the world. Every piece.
It's very obviously Indigenous American inspired.
Out somewhere. There's kind of a voyage of discovery to find everything, and it's very rare you buy one outfit from the same people. I have a newsprint jacket that fastens with safety pins. Shit. I bought the newspaper jacket from one person, and I bought each of the safety pins from 2 other people.
Oh, wow.
As well as collecting Galliano clothes, I'm lucky enough that I've been able to collect a bunch of his invitations from the 1990s, and just
those are really, really popular too.
Like other fashion shows.
The auction that I went to was an Alexander McQueen auction, and I think everybody was kind of shocked. Maybe, I don't know. I felt very shocked by hearing the numbers that people were willing, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for invitations to Alexander McQueen shows. Listen, they're iconic shows like Jungle Out There and Highland Rape and things like that.
There were all kinds of sort of fantastical objects, and here's just a few of them. This one is quite special. This is from the Spring-Summer 1997 John Galliano show, which is kind of colloquially known as the Circus Collection. It's a Matryoshka doll with a charm bracelet on the inside. Every kind of invite was the sort of first glimpse at the sort of mise-en-scène, at the sort of fantasy he was imagining for each season. So the invite for Spring Summer 1996 is a ballet slipper with a scroll of music. attached. This was a show that took place in the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées in Paris, and famously had Shalom Harlow performing pirouettes at the end. I'm very well aware not everyone can afford these clothes. I couldn't afford these clothes when I was a kid, but I could look at the pictures and I could fall in love with the pictures, and those could make me dream and want to be part of this. And that's why I think fashion is elitist, but it's also incredibly egalitarian, because anyone can look at pictures of these clothes and can fall in love with them and can dream about them.
I will also say that I think such an interesting thing about fashion is you do not have to own it necessarily to appreciate it and love it and fall in love with it, be inspired by it. I think that's the greatest part, is watching like fashion shows. And I mean like really watching them, not just clicking through the Vogue runway slides.
And the answer is probably this dress here. It's the dress that was worn by Carla Bruni. Not the actual dress, unfortunately, but there were only 5 ever made. You can see here,
Holy shit.
There's just one
Oh my
seam
God.
that holds the entire
Wow.
together.
That must have been a real moment.
And all the fit seams, all the darts, everything is kind of lost into the image of this flower. I think a lot of the times, not just in fashion, but in lots of cases, you know, when you go and visit an amazing monument or you meet your hero, they don't live up to the expectations that you had in your head. And the thing that's, for me, really wonderful about Galliano is everything I've got hold of is even better in real life than I imagined it was going to be.
I think that's so nice. I don't know. It's like making me like weirdly emotional. I'm just like, I love that. Having bought that piece must have been such a euphoric experience. Like touching it for the first time and getting it and unboxing it and all that. And then being able to sort of look at it when you're just feeling low or whatever. That must be nice.
A lot of people ask me what the ultimate goal is, what the kind of aim is. You know, am I going to do an exhibition? Am I going to donate it all to a museum? Am I going to sell it all? As a kind of spurious justification to myself, there is this sense of, oh, well, I bought this for X amount and now it's worth Y amount. And it's incredibly valuable. And I've spent a lot of money on it, but it is worth far more than I've spent on it. And obviously to me, it's completely priceless. And I don't think I could ever sell it. And I don't know what the ultimate goal is. That's something that's slightly frightening as well as sort of exciting. I'm like, well, the ultimate goal is to own everything from every show. But then what do I do with it? Do I restage the show? I often quote the Duchess of Windsor. She once said, the possession of beautiful things is thrilling to me. And I see that in this. It's just this idea of getting something and just being like, wow, isn't this great?
I loved it. I loved that. I thought it was really like a beautiful pulling together of why fashion is so important and what these things really mean to people. So I'm happy to see that. And I wish that I was the one doing it, that somebody's doing it. So good for you, Vogue. Pat yourselves on the back. Proud. But thank you guys so much for watching. Again, links in the description box below for these gorgeous girls. Gorgeous, gorgeous girls. Love Fashion File. And I will see you guys in the next video, and TTYL.